Hi guys, this is Lada from Astrolada.com for your weekly horoscope for the last week of March. And we're starting a bit of a more challenging stretch, astrologically speaking, starting from this week with the full moon in Libra, because this one is a bit intense. I'm going to walk you through that. And actually, we did a video with Trifon Nikolov, which speaks about the whole of April from the perspective of ancient astrology. But let me give you my perspective week by week, because every cloud has a silver lining, and I want to take you there at least so even though the challenging influences, starting how to navigate them and what you can expect as a positive result even from those challenging things. And before I start, just a quick announcement. There's is the last week where you can order for 20% less the webinar on ancient astrology with Krasi Atasio. She's a Bulgarian Babylonian astrology, uses Babylonian astrology, and she'll teach us how to make talismans, how to find the best astrological times for talismans or for rituals to strengthen Venus, the planet of love, so you can attract love this way, or how you can strengthen Jupiter, the planet of wealth and abundance and joy and happiness. If you're depressed, you strengthen your Jupiter, and you will be able to, by carrying an object that's that's kind of infused with the magic of the special moment that she'll teach us how to choose, or you can uplift your vibrations or strengthen certain weakness in your horoscope. So that's practical magic, practical astrological magic, like the way the ancients did it for modern times. And it's only $49 with manuals and everything. So do join us on the 31st of March, Gracia Tasio, Practical Astrological Magic. And if you still haven't signed up for Aries in Chiron webinar with Robert Phoenix, there is another day that the webinar is 30% off, on the $29. Anyway, let me walk you through this full moon in Libra. Why am I saying that this week will be challenging? Because the full moon that we're having in Libra, and Libra is such a lovely sign, but it's all triggered by difficult aspects. And let me explain to you. Here is the stars here, this tropical signs, and the moon will have a full moon here in Libra, which means that the sun is always opposited, and Mercury this time is with the sun. There is always an opposition intrinsically involved in the full moon, and it tends to give us results of something. Full moon is an auspicious event according to old astrology, because the moon is full, it gives it full fruits. We see results of our actions, we receive something, usually something material, because the moon grows the material abundance in our life, and we tend to see the results of the efforts we've put. But this time, this full moon in Libra has challenging aspects, something that we call like a Tau square. Look how it's like a T-square with 90 degrees here between all those planets, and especially the square aspect from Saturn and Mars, which are two malefics, which is very close to this full moon. So yes, we'll be seeing the results of our actions. Yes, we'll be seeing there will be some important developments, because full moons trigger important developments, especially in cardinal signs. They're action oriented, that we take some important decisions, that we culminate. It's like a culmination. A full moon is culmination of events that have started happening in the past, and that now get a resolution or some kind of a completion, or we see the results of that. But we take the action for this, and we are kind of directly involved with the actions now. But because of the challenging aspects of Saturn and Mars, the action that we're triggered into will be some crisis instigated. Very likely the results that we see, or the action that we have to take, will be, how would I define the Cardinal T-Square? This is how it's called in astrology, T-Square, when planets form opposition in 90 degrees. It's defined by dynamic changes triggered by challenges. So you see, you can say it in a more nicer ways, dynamic changes triggered by challenges, but it's stressful. What can I say? Emotionally, especially the cardinal signs, the Aries, the Libras, the Capricorns, the Cancers, whether it's your ascendant, sun, or moon, or you might have Mercury in one of those four signs, or you might have your Venus, the planet of relationships, or the planet that rules your ascendant, or your Mars. if any planet in the cardinal signs, especially around, I would say 8 to 14 degrees, maybe even before that, 8 to 14 degrees in the cardinal signs, which is Cancer, Libra, Aries, and Capricorn. Check out from my birth chart calculator. If you know your time of birth, enter your details below. Go to the planetary detail table and you can see where you have planets, what signs, what degrees they are in, whether your ascendant is there. So if you happen to have Mars somewhere, say in Capricorn or in Cancer in those degrees, or in Leo or in Libra, oh, you'll be triggered. Or if you happen to have the Sun or Moon or Venus or Mercury, to a lesser Mars, to a lesser degree Saturn and Jupiter as well, or the ascendant to a big degree. Definitely some very important decisions you have to take this week or the next 2 weeks after that, because the full moon affects us for 2 weeks after that. And the full moon is on the 31st of March, but we start feeling it a few days before and 2 weeks after that. Definitely you have to take some dynamic, very, very important decisions in your life, but triggered by a challenge. Something can stress you out emotionally, can upset you, so it's not necessary that you're just Sun in Libra, that you're born in October, or Moon, or born in Capricorn or Aries, you can have one of those other planets. So maybe 30% of people will feel it, maybe almost 30% will have something there around those degrees as well. So what can I say about this full moon? I will give you predictions for each of the signs, but let me just first break it down a little bit, because it falls on a special star, which is called Vindemiatrix at 11 degrees in tropical Libra, which falls in the constellation of Virgo, but it's known as the Widow Maker. And that star that the full moon falls in, because it puts an impact there, it puts a stress on that energy, or how they say, like a focal point. Vindemiatrix is noticed for relationship problems, sometimes divorces, in very rare cases, very dramatic developments like to leave someone without a partner, but certain problems in relationships is one of its influence. And I've been watching charts of people that have anything around the 9th, 10th, 11th degrees of Virgo, sometimes tend to have more problems than others in relationships and breakups or divorces or such things. But now that the moon falls there, I'm not saying everyone's going to break up and the widow maker is going to make you a widow. Not, of course. It's not dramatic like that. It will just put our collective consciousness, subconscious, the moon, and it will put us more on matters of relationships that we're dissatisfied with. Not only is that star connected to things that we're upset about, relationship or something that we're not happy with, but as I said, this moon is so challenged dynamically, making us take some action by the Sun and Mercury, as I said, and Saturn and Mars more specifically. So definitely we'll have some more extreme reactions, and Libra is a sign of relationships as well. So and it doesn't have to be marriage relationships or sex relationships only. It can be business or client relationships, relationships with partners of any sort, or one-to-one relationship with close friends that will be tested this week and the next 2 weeks after that. But when you're prepared, when you know that, you're not going to overreact, because especially this full moon that will be active for 2 weeks, especially around the 31st, a few days before and after, will be so reactive emotionally. Saturn and Mars square moon. You get to see how people born with Saturn, Mars aspecting moon feel normally. Poor them. I know people like that. It's not easy on them. You have, if they're very, you kind of, we overreact. We take things personally. We can feel more attacked by others because Mars is this energy. We can keep more pain within us as well. But the moon pushes us towards action, and we might express it or burst out, and especially Mercury is retrograde. Remember what it means to have Mercury retrograde? It's 3 times closer to Earth, and Mercury is communication. So its pull, gravitational pull on the Earth, is 3 times stronger. So it demands that things that were unsaid from the past that upset us be said and spoken now. And because the focus was on this full moon, it illuminates the sign of Libra relationships and the star of relationship problems and the planets of problems there, especially in the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn rules things that we've been holding on to, that are like a stumbling block, that create resentments, and that can create, the difficult side of Saturn, of course, because it's triggered by difficult planets now. So all those things can come to the surface. This full moon can make us erupt with such emotions directed towards others, so others can erupt towards us with such emotions. Usually, if you're, and as I said, you, especially if you have planets in cardinal signs, we talked about that. You're not safe if you're like, I'm a Gemini, I'm born in June, so it's not going to affect me. Yes, but your Venus might be in Aries, and you might feel that in particularly in your relationship. So your Mercury, the planet of communication, might be in Cancer and gets triggered by this full moon, and you're just fighting with business partners left and right, or friends, or something. So yes, our emotional buttons will be triggered, but something will come to a resolution. This will trigger us because full moon is about not necessarily ending something, but seeing the completion of something, seeing the full, something reaching its ceiling of possibilities. So something will trigger us, will make us get, take some actions, especially coming through relationships to us, through others. Something that we've been bottling, something that needed to be said a long time, whether people say to us or we say to others. It will escalate in a possibly less pleasant way than we expect, or in more challenging way. But we overcome difficult cardinal squares by conscious action, because the cardinal signs are the signs of action. So when you stay present and conscious in yourself, and you take the right actions, don't worry. Actually, you can see the positive side of a full moon, which is resolution, something coming to a conclusion, or something finally, yes, it might be preceded by a crisis and some irritation, at least emotionally, but it gives results. Plus, the other name of Vindimatrix, the star that the full moon is on, according to ancient sources, is the grape gatherer. So it has another meaning, this full moon as well. It's not only about relationship problems and widow makers, it's our problems, anything to do with relationships. The star of the grape gatherer implies that fruits are being gathered, and that fruits, you're seeing the results of some actions, and possibly in a way that is a bit more dramatic, that is a bit more, the results might be very fruitful and very rich, depending on your efforts, depending on previous actions, because full moons give us the results of previous actions. But how it comes around, it's a bit too excitable with those difficult aspects, and can trigger, even if it's something positive, it can make us like hyper and, too excited, and even snap at others in some way. So be prepared, conscious actions, and you can gather a lot of fruits as well. And you can take also, because it's focused on relationship, you can take a relationship to the next stage by first some kind of confrontation, by first talking about some difficult issues, bringing things from the past as well. That's the general influence for everyone. But let's quickly talk for each sign, because I don't want to make this reading too long. I mean, I've been making them for an hour and a half. It's like people get bored from all this. So let's quickly see. For Aries, the focus is in the 7th house. But you see, because all those angles are being triggered, it might come also from your career, because the focal point of the T-square is Saturn and Mars. It's the peak. So being an Aries, you might have to balance between your needs, the needs of a partner, and your professional needs. You might feel a little bit stretched, whether it's your Aries ascendant, sun, or moon. You might be feeling irritable, and you're asked to take some executive decisions, even with your career and your social status, but that can interfere with your relationship somehow. There is like a clash between your needs in relationships and your career needs and your personal needs, and you have to resolve them, because difficult aspects, again, through creative action, through dynamic action, are resolved, but they make us feel uncomfortable until we resolve them. So be careful. There's focus on relationship very powerfully, that might need to be addressed, certain things that one said that can burst and escalate, whether personal or business, but they're also involved with your social status, with your career, and with your personal needs there. If you're Taurus, it's happening in the full moon is happening in your 6th house. So there might be 6th house is connected to your workmates and people at your work, and your enmities as well, people that you consider enemies and competitors of the 6th house. That's why maybe the workmates are there as well. I don't know. But it's the work environment, the 6th house there. So there might be certain, and because Libra is a sign of relationships, there might be an escalation of emotional issues and some stresses that come through your work, possibly through other people in your work, relationships, something unfair that you see. Libra is about fairness, and the buttons of the Libra moon is being triggered, and it's on the star of relationship problems as well in the matrix. But also, don't remember, it's on the star of the wine gatherer, the wife. Maybe it's wine o'clock here. I'm talking wine, grape gatherer, and you also can be seeing the results of some work that you've been working on, maybe completion of some work or career project or some important project that you have to take important decisions for, but maybe it's more stressful. Maybe like there is deadlines or something that is stressing you a bit more, but you can still see very good fertile results because of the full moon, preceded by some kind of, having to resolve some conflict, possibly. Okay, if you're a Gemini, it's happening in your 5th house. Actually, it's more supportive, because if you have sun or moon or ascendant in Gemini, they're making a trine aspect to this full moon. So that's like you're intrinsically helping out through your reaction, maybe through good communication, you being a Gemini, to solve some of the conflicts that are happening in relationships, and that some of the tension of this full moon. And it stimulates you creatively because it's in your 5th house. So something can put you into action, can kick you into action because it's cardinal on your moon. Maybe some interaction with another person. Libra might be through a partner, through a relationship, through someone talking to you that challenges you, that maybe upsets you in some way about something, how you've done it, something that you're working on, that you're putting your creative vision yourself or your intelligence, that kind of presses your buttons and makes you take a different decision or makes you change direction in some way. There might be some triggers that are unpleasant, but it makes you kind of also see results of some creative project you've been working on, and possibly preceded by some kind of stresses. But the 5th house is also romantic house. So there's romantic lovers, people that you're dating before you have children with them or before you get married. Is usually your boyfriend, girlfriend. Even if they're serious and you might be even very committed, they still are very much connected 5th house, considered 5th house. So there might be someone like such person pressing your buttons there, Gemini, and things have to be said and they escalate emotionally. But because your sign is sending a trine to Libra, you'll be able to deal with them more with your clever communication skills. Also, so yes, there is love problems that can escalate, creative problems that can escalate, but also give results and turn you into more, help you take a creative project next notch up. Plus, the 5th house is children. Your children might be pain in the bum now, but might be too emotional or reactive, can make you react in some way as well. And there might be some power struggles there as well. But at the same time, again, as I said, because it's a trine aspect, you're the one, because the trine comes from your sign. So you're the one that can solve this problem. And you have the also kind of very creative thought on how to solve any issue that is triggered there. But just be prepared for such situations. For Cancers, the full moon, the challenging full moon falls in the 4th house. So relationships, Libra, with family members may be a little bit strained. Again, but look also, your 7th house is triggered by Saturn and Mars as well, that are part of this configuration. So it might, for some of you, it might reflect in the relationships with others, with marriage partners, with business partners, with one-to-one communications, that others are pressing your buttons, especially if you have anything around the 8th to the 12th degree, 13th or even 14th degree in Cancer, which means you'll be born the first 5 days of July, more likely. No, you can feel that if you're the first 5 days of July, this configuration, or if your ascendant is in those degrees or your moon those degrees that I mentioned. But still, if you're Cancer, watch out, because also your career is involved there. Then you might have to find a resolution, and different areas of your life pushing in different directions. As I said, the cardinal signs are most affected. Your personal life needs can be conflicting with your relationship needs, with your career needs, and you have to find some kind of dynamic solution and you have to act. The secret here with dealing with the Cardinal T-Square is actions, conscious actions. If you just sit and stay and don't react the situation, you don't have control over it. It's not the way to deal with Cardinal T-Square. You have to react somehow with an action, but not in a crazy way. Go and fight with your family or go and fight with your partners or something like that. But just be prepared that something can trigger you. At least emotionally, you'd feel kind of more, because the moon is in the 4th house, emotionally you can feel more triggered by others. Also, the 4th house is property, place of living. Something to do with your property or place of living can require your dynamic action, can trigger you into taking some kind of initiative, maybe because you get angry about something, maybe because something stimulates you in a bit more vexing way because of the difficult aspects here. Then if you're Leo, this full moon falls in the 3rd house, which is actually okay, and it means that the 3rd house and you're making a sextile if your sun or moon or ascendant is a Leo, which kind of, again, through your own, some opportunity and chance can come to help you with this, but you can receive some important news, piece of missing information, for example. 3rd house is about information, about news, which you've been missing, but which can also be a little bit stressful, because you see the stressful aspects of the moon with the other planets. And it might even affect somehow information that affect your work in some way, because Saturn and Mars are in the 6th house. It can even affect a little bit your health, because they're in the 6th house. So don't get over stressed for that. But basically, also the 3rd house can indicate, 3rd house naturally connected to relationships, working with people in small group environments. You might be working with colleagues on something, or it might be your relationships with brothers and sisters and relatives, cousins and neighbors that can be a little bit stressful this week because of this kind of challenging full moon. And you have to be careful with your communications. When you communicate with people on a daily one-to-one basis, be careful, because more arguments are likely, more enmities. Mars and Saturn in the 6th house of enmity, making difficult aspect to the moon. And also watch out a little bit your health, because of those 2 malefics there in the 6th house. And there might be like clash of opinions with others, because the Sun and Mercury make an opposition to Moon from the 9th house of your beliefs, ideological system. So be careful. People in your daily environment, just a little bit more fights with them, a little bit more challenging situations that make you take some action. But at the same time, you can see the results of some initiatives, especially commercial and work initiative of yours, because 3rd house is commercial business activity, 6th house is work. So you can see the results of some of those, or there might be some deadlines again that you have to rush, and some stressful situations regarding business, commercial activities, administrative activities, any also travel plans. If you have, they might be more challenging, and also any routines. The 6th house, the 3rd house, they're all connected to your daily routines and plannings. You've made some plans and they go topsy-turvy, so be prepared that you have to be more initiative to take to take a new course of action. It doesn't have to be something big. It might be that, yes, you had meetings scheduled for today and they had to be changed because some other work engagement comes up, but that will stress you out somehow emotionally, because the moon is there and it can make you have some little spats with people, But otherwise, you can see the results, as I said, in some commercial activity project. It might be the culmination of some project connected to writing, speaking, talking, traveling of some sort, but it's surrounded by certain challenges that you have to act dynamically on. If you're Virgo, it's happening this full moon in your 2nd house. Well, I would advise you as a Virgo, and the other challenging aspects are in your 8th house from the Sun and in your 5th house. I would advise you not to take financial risks, because those houses are connected to financial situations. You might be a bit more sensitive about such topics as well, but you might be asked to actually make dynamic changes there, to take certain actions, because you're dissatisfied with something, or because something vexes you and annoys you of some sort. So you're like, okay, now I'm making a change with my finances, so some with your possessions as well, with assets, but be more protective of your assets, possessions, anything of value. because of those challenging aspects to the moon in the second house. Don't go gambling, don't go buying things unless you really research them, you really things, especially expensive things, unless, especially if you're Virgo ascendant or to a lesser degree sun or moon, but still, just try to be a bit more cautious with money in the coming 2 weeks, around the full moon. And if you have to make some important, because Cardinal T-Square requires actions, if you have to take some actions in regards to your resources, as I said, you might feel more stressful about that, but make sure that I don't know what advice to give. Let me see what is helping there. Is there any planet helping this T-Square? I don't see. I think Neptune is helping here. Neptune from the 7th house. The only good aspects from here is Neptune sextile to the Saturn Mars. So that's your 7th house. Consult someone. 7th house is an advisor, consultant. If you have to do something with money, if there's some stresses with your money, at least confide in someone one-to-one or ask them for their advice what to do. Maybe they're more experienced in some way, or just for the moral support. Okay, so I don't want to tell you're not going to have money, you're going to lose money. Just be more cautious with values and assets. And plus, the 2nd house is also connected to family sometimes, so you might be quite sensitive to your families as well. And Saturn and Mars are in your 5th house, which is lovers. And be careful with lovers as well, so you don't fight about money or something like that, or possessions, or give and receive, because the Sun and Mercury are in the 8th house of how much you're giving and receiving, whether it's love to the partner, whether it's resources, moral or financial support. So there might be certain important conversations that come out for you that are centered on how much you give and receive, 2nd, 8th house, your self-worth, and how much you feel you're worthy in regards to love relationships because of Saturn and Mars in the 5th house. Okay, or also your children. Your children might be a source of some kind of expense, or some creative project might become some kind of worry or stress, like a financial, you might have to spend a bit more than you expect, for example, on some creative project or some passion of yours, or on some lover, or on some dating, or something that 5th house is something that we enjoy doing, having fun with, that requires a bit more spending from us, that creates some tension, Just when you're warned again, don't worry, no drama has to happen. You just might be feeling a bit more your buttons pressed because of such topics. Then if you're a Libra, of course, it's in your sign in Libra, especially if you're a Libra that is born, I don't know, around the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th of October. The full moon falls on your sun exactly, or if you have your ascendant or moon around those 11 degrees, maybe 2-3 degrees before, 4 or 5 degrees actually before. So I would say from 6-7 degrees in Libra till around 16 degrees, 17 degrees. In Libra, the full moon is falling on your ascendant, moon, or sun. All other Libras will feel it. The full moon in your sign, guys, makes you more emotional, puts you in the spotlight. All your actions will be noticed from others. You're not going to be able to hide your actions, and you might have some unwanted even attention. It's like all eyes are on you while you have to perform some very complicated trick and navigate diplomatically very sensitive waters, let's say. But you're great at that because you're Libra and you know how to wriggle your way around diplomatically, usually by being fair. But your buttons might be pressed too much. You might explode. You might not be the best diplomat now. And especially challenging can be, situations connected to your personal life, the 5th house, the 4th house, family, home. Maybe your needs, emotional needs that you have might not be met by family members, or you have to do something for yourself, but something with, in regards to family or property, it's holding you back, or even relationships that you have to communicate some difficult things with and bring up some clarifications, and not necessarily love relationships only. It can be business or personal or client relationship, that things that have to come to be clarified, to be worked upon, new different clauses for the relationships and for the roles in the relationships and how you behave in it might need to be negotiated, and that's putting emotional pressure on you. And not only that, but as I said, the spotlight is on you, everyone, and it kind of depends on you. All the rest of what's happening, because the full moon is in your sign, depends on you, on the decision that you take, but it will push you into some decision, into making some important decision in regards to your personal life, relationship, family life, or even in career. In the missing leg here in Cancer can be that. So yeah, and it can be, again, as I said, time of culmination, of receiving something, but it's preceded somehow by stress, maybe having to hurry to change something, to put extra efforts a little bit. And if it's like that, perfect, you'll receive some rewards in the coming 2 weeks. It just requires extra stress from you, or extra effort, so to speak, because of those configurations, and that's perfectly okay often. Okay, then if you're Scorpio, it's in your 12th house. And everything is happening in the 12th house, in the 3rd house of communication, and in the 6th house of work. So what do we say? There might be something that you're not aware of. 12th house is something hidden behind our back that comes to our consciousness now in the next 2 weeks, to your consciousness, Scorpio, especially Scorpio rising, sun, moon as well. So something that you are not aware, something behind the scenes, something that's been happening maybe between you and colleagues, work colleagues, or between you and 3rd house is associates of any sort, siblings, relatives, neighbors, workmates, playmates, a lot of people in our daily environment. And the 6th house is work environment. So maybe some secrets can come to be illuminated to the surface in regards to such people. Maybe some sensitive information, 3rd house, Saturn, Mars, that's kind of even biting a little bit information that comes to the surface that might be a little bit take us from the blind side, almost as if we didn't expect that, because of that 12th house activity, that can directly impact our plans and routines, your plans and routines, and your work environment as well. So one thing to be aware of, try to be as honest as possible. With the full moon in the 12th house, intrigues and gossip, such things can come and bite you back and give you the full results of the action. So if you've been ambivalent or not direct, or playing on both teams, now these things can escalate with friends and relatives, or people in your daily environment, or workmates, to come to the surface, and you have to deal with that. It requires dynamic action of some sort, and it requires the 12th house as much honesty as possible, and what do I say? And it doesn't need to be something so scary. It can be just maybe something that you're working on, some work project, the 6th house that is triggered, that requires you to collaborate with workmates, 3rd house in a small group environment, behind the scenes, 12th house, but that is stressful in some way because everyone is pulling in different direction of some sort as well. And it's about certain secrets or missing information coming out as well. Okay, then if you're Sagittarius, it's happening in your 11th house. These are your friendship, your social environment. They might be illuminating, and you're coming to more clarity with moon. Full moon brings more clarity in regards to certain friendship, but it might be accompanied, this realization, with certain stressful and less pleasant, let's say, developments. And also there might be the need to spend more money, Saturn, Mars in the 2nd house, in regards to some long-term goal that you're planning, which can stress you emotionally, but in the long term, this might be exactly what is needed. And to invest something in regards to your long-term goals, but unexpectedly, because it's or something that you are not so happy to do right now, but maybe it's a necessary thing. But again, because it's happening, the Grand Cross in houses that are so-called material financial houses, the 11th house, where the full moon is in, is the house of gains. The 2nd house in Saturn and Mars is how you spend money and resources. And this is the 5th house. So it is very important that you don't take risks financially, that you're a bit more cautious financially, that you're I won't even say, if you have to make some important financial decisions, do it in a way that is Sagittarius, that is not too risky. advise someone maybe as well, or ask for someone's advice. Uh, but you might be asked to take certain actions in that direction because of this, and this can create certain stresses. And also, your friendships can be a more dynamic area for the next 2 weeks, and your social. If you're a member of social group or of network or a forum on the internet somewhere, these are all group activities of the 11th house. So if you work on some organizations, that can create more tension in relationships there with such people that has to be resolved. And that rotates around self-worth, self-value, the second house. That rotates about self-esteem, the fifth house, certain issues that has to be resolved in regards to groups and people, social situations, the 11th house, that directly impact your either resources and finances, or directly impacts your sense-worth and self-value and self-esteem. Okay, so if you're Capricorn, you're one of the signs that is directly very strongly influenced, just like Aries, just like Cancer and Libra. It's happening in your 10th house, so your social status and career can turn in a new direction this next 2 weeks. It can be like, but you see, cardinal squares and cardinal T-squares, they make change. Oh yes, they're there to create a change, but the change is, it's not like moving a cart on circular wheels. It's like moving a cart on square wheels. This kind of change, like gish, 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 But you're moving. That's the good news, And there might be a little bit of a shock value that something turns around in regards to your career plans. And there is a spotlight. The full moon is a spotlight on your career, maybe on dealings with institutions, with bosses, with authority figures, with parental figures, people in kind of that are either elderly or more, or have more higher positions than you, some sort, or more authority. And there might be conflict. There might be certain resentments that are clashing between you and authority figures, and also your family here, the Sun and Mercury. So the needs of the family might be clashing with the needs of your career life, or the needs of your personal life might be clashing with the needs of your goals and career plans, or with some authority figures, and you're finding yourself, they're having to being stretched on a cross and having to find some solution how to reconcile those areas of your life, especially because it's in Libra, the 10th house. It might be something to do with bosses, relationships with bosses, or the people that are interacting with that directly impact your career in some way. But that might be pressing your buttons in some way, and that you have to resolve, or you have to deal with deadlines, and you have to navigate between two more hot areas of your life, which is the need of a family and the need of a boss, or the need of a career situation. So that kind of makes you more stressed and emotionally more reactive. And again, as I said, where it can, because it's in the first house, Saturn and Mars are in your sign, so you directly can be the one that pulls the trigger and goes and shoots everyone, as they say. But no, because you're more controlled, but Mars is exalted in your sign. Even though it's pushing you to take action, it will help you take some constructive and more intelligent action. But maybe you're just feeling stressed because of all this situation, And as I said, the full moon also can bring the results of something that you've been working hard on, especially in regards to your career. But again, you have to navigate between different areas of your life that are pulling for your attention and maybe creating more tension there. Then if you're Aquarius, it's happening in your 9th house. So this is kind of easier energy, because your sun, moon, or ascendant will be making a trine aspect, which is a helpful aspect to this full moon that doesn't receive any helpful aspects from any other planets. But you as an Aquarius, whether it's your sun, moon, or ascendant, are directly responsible with your actions for a positive outcome. And you are able, by some kind of a more high-minded response and more cool response, the way Aquarius does it, rather than jumping with both feet hot-headedly and spitting out and saying things they later regret. Aquarius are known for being able to be a little bit more in their head, and to be able to if you keep that coolness, that Aries coolness, you'll be able to navigate the more hot waters of that full moon. That can create, what can it create for you? Clash of opinions and beliefs and points of view. It's in the ninth house of belief systems and opinions, and it's clashing with the third house of communication. So there might be certain spats verbally with others, with colleagues, with neighbors, with relatives, or with teachers, with father figures, the ninth house, with also moral issues that comes out that you feel very sensitive about in the next 2 weeks, because ninth house is about what you believe is right or what's moral, and ninth house is about justice, so to speak, and so is Libra as well. And ninth house is about truthfulness, so something important that comes about the truth that has to be spoken. And keep your cool head, don't overreact, don't go saying emotional things left and right, because this can directly create hidden enemies for you. Mars and Saturn in the 12th house, this can directly, if you're going there saying your opinions in a way that is too affected, that is too emotional, you can create more vicious hidden enemies, someone that's working behind the scenes to harm you, or you can just self-sabotage yourself, the 12th house, through that, the 12th house, Saturn and Mars. So when expressing your opinions and communicating, ninth house, and even if you're fighting for a right cause, because ninth house is right, something you believe in, something you believe you're right, and some truth can come to the surface with the moon in the ninth house of truth, full moon, in you can reap the results of some truth that you've been waiting to see for a long time, that comes to the surface in the next 2 weeks to be dealt with. But it's basically stressing you emotionally on some level and with your communication. So just be prepared for that. And also, if you're dealing with some documents, papers, or working on something connected to work project, third house is commercial activities that requires attention to detail, that requires good planning and organization, and left brain activity, which is the rational attention to all those things. Something administrative, business. Just be careful that you're not clashing with others. Just be careful that you're not omitting certain details behind the scenes, the 12th house, because it might be stressing you as well. Okay, and then and also ninth house is travels, and third house is travels, so, and 12th house is faraway countries. I would say you might be, if you're arranging, it might be pushing you to, if you're traveling somewhere, be a bit more cautious, because there might be certain stresses. Or if you're planning certain journeys or something to do with foreign countries, it might be a bit more stressful again, that requires you to take some dynamic action. It doesn't necessarily mean the results will be negative. It's just you're stressed around that time when it's happening, and then if you're Pisces, it's happening in your 8th house. So again, it's a financial house, other people's resources. There might be some relationship issues that come up, Libra, about resources that are mutual, whether it's a business partnership, whether it's a client relationships, and some payments have to be solved that generate some emotional tension, or about whether your husband's spending more than you, or whether did he drink your salary coming back from the mine, going to the pub, if we're in the 19th century. Or it can be something to do with taxes. 8th house is taxes. A lot of emotional attention on taxes that makes you feel uneasy and that makes you feel a little bit stressed. Again, don't take financial risks. All those planets, the T-Square, they're happening in the 11th house, which is connected to resources, to gains. In your 8th house, other people's resources, then in your 2nd house. So be more cautious, be more conservative. Rebudget, you might have to change plans in regards to your finances. That's okay. They might be preceded by some crisis or some dissatisfaction, or someone speaking with someone that brings it to your attention that you need to make some changes, and that can be a bit frustrating, but that's what grand squares are about, not grand squares, T-squares, to push us into dynamic action, even if it comes about in a stressful way. So certain changes financially in such matters. And also be careful about your friendship. The 11th house is one's friendships, that there aren't some tensions in regards to give and receive, who gives more, not necessarily financially, also attention and how much you invest, because the second and the eighth house that is also triggered is about give and receive, and it's connected to the 11th house of groups of people and friendships. Yay! We went through that. And don't tell me I'm a bringer of bad news only, because honestly, I try to, honestly, even the most difficult thing always, and sometimes even if it's the worst thing, you know, someone passing away, this can be something that one day it pushes you towards your, you know, the most intense things we experience are the ones that make us mature the most and actually push us to discover our destiny and our path in life. But we're talking here this full moon that's going to kind of emotionally trigger things and emotionally and move things around a lot. It's a cardinal moon and it's connected to relationships and others pressing our buttons, and because of that we're making some changes, and changes are good, you know, especially if they're accompanied by conscious action, not by trigger happy, let me kill you all bastards. And you know, just be clever with your actions, and you can have some tremendous gather some tremendous rewards, just like the star of the full moon, which is the great gatherer, you know, rather than the widow maker in its negative connotation, meaning that you're fighting around with people, having relationship problems. Okay, so there's another thing that's happening, Sun is square Saturn, but I spoke a lot about that in my previous video last week. Check it out for the equinox video, which is active for the whole month of April. So you can keep checking that equinox video for a whole month and actually the whole year, because an equinox defines the energy of the year. There I speak about the clash of Aries and Capricorn and how it's affecting you, about all the new, about conservative and new ideas. And this is where the Sun and Saturn will be fighting it off this week as well. So anyway, thank you so much, guys. If you want to know all the transits that you have, check out my 2018 103 pages calendar. It's $5 off now. It's only $25 now. And for the remaining, 9 months that we have of 2018. So thank you so much. Check out the classes. Don't forget Practical Magic with Krasi next week. Check out all the other classes. We have a few classes that are on sale now. And be cautious, be conscious this week, guys. And I should listen to my advice the most because my personal planets are affected. The planet that rules children in my horoscope. So they'll be pressing my buttons, making me emotional. And the planet that rules, you know, I'm not going to say, but I hope everything is fine. Let's say what's happening around the 31st of March. Write your comments below. Some of you will be feeling it a few days before. And don't tell me, you know, do tell me the good things that you're seeing out of this situation. Don't just complain. Let's focus on seeing the bigger picture out of it. So thank you, and I will see you next week.